So Lynn, I think, unless Sarah or Tom wants to.
I can do that just because I was here when we started this. I guess I would say that this project is really a fabulous opportunity for STEP students to learn editing and technical skills and learning interview skills. They got to meet some really great seniors in their own community. And this has really been a fabulous opportunity for them to get to know people who live right around them and then to share their stories. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I think STEPS is really appreciative of the collaboration that everybody has. And I think that we're gonna, Juan is gonna be here at some point. So I'm just speaking because I started this process, but I'm not a STEPS representative at this point.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, Lynn was really, just for anybody who doesn't know about the program already, intergenerational digital storytelling is really a collaboration between three organizations, which is Brookline Interactive Group, and Steps to Success, of course, and the Brookline Senior Center, and is funded through the Brookline Community Foundation, as well as the Ramsey McCluskey Foundation as well. So we've been really blessed with partners in this program, and we have 6 great videos to show you tonight, and all 6 youth are here, but I think we are missing 2 seniors right now, I believe. And then so you heard from Lynn, who is not with Steps to Success any longer, but she was, pivotal person connecting high school students to us, and then we connected them to the seniors at the senior center. So next up, I'll just let Jamie say a few words, who is pivotal on that end in terms of connecting with the seniors and creating those connections for us.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to give a special thank you to the seniors who were involved. Really appreciate all of your time that you've committed to this and working with the students. It really is quite a fabulous match that we have through this program. So really appreciate it. I'm sorry, looks like 2 of the seniors were not able to join tonight. I know one had a conflict and the other, unfortunately, might have forgotten. I'm having trouble getting him on the phone, but I'm sure he'll love to, both of them will love to see their videos after the fact.
Great. And we actually, Vrinda and I did share George's video with him, but I didn't hear back from him. So hopefully he was able to open it and to view it last week. So, all right. Well, so once again, I just really want to thank the students. They've been working on this since, goodness, when did we start this? It was like, I think the very beginning, at the very end of January, I believe at the very end of January when they first met each other and got paired up. And since then, they've come up with topics and recorded their interviews, and then now have been going through the long process of whittling it down and trying to figure out how to take anywhere from a 30 to a 50-minute conversation that they had with the seniors from the senior center. They had to whittle it down to 5, 6, 7 minutes at the most, which is, I think that they will all attest is the most painful part of the process, because they love everything that you say and they don't want to cut up your words. And so they've really done their best to try to find a story and find images that go with that story. So without further ado, I think we should just jump into it, since we do have 6 videos to watch. So first up, we're going to start with our high school senior, Hannah, who's going to be graduating here very shortly from Brookline High School. And she's going to introduce her video. So go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Hannah Lee. And so the senior I worked with is Murray Kiok. And so when I was interviewing him, he told me a lot of interesting stories, both about his life, but also about stories within his music. And so as I was sort of rewatching our interview, to see what I could put in the video, I started kind of imagining these scenes from certain stories that I heard. And so in the video, I'll be presenting those stories, using some of my artwork. And so through Murray's interview, I also learned that you can never be too old to do something or start something, whether it be finding new interests or even being an activist.
Great, thank you, Hannah. And Murray, did you want to say anything before we get started?
I'm glad to be interviewed. I want to encourage everybody to not look back, but look ahead. As I told Hannah, I didn't do well in school, but my first wife encouraged me to go to college, which I started at 27, age 27. I wound up 10 years later with a doctoral degree. So I just want to encourage everybody to don't think about what your past is. Your future is still in front of you.
Great, thank you, Murray. And I just want to remind everyone before we get started in the video, I will be muting you unless you're called upon to speak, or unless you have, after each video, we're going to have a little Q&A, a little question and answer period where you can ask either the young filmmaker or the senior anything about the video technically, or anything about the story, anything you're interested in. So just keep yourself muted unless it's your turn to speak, or unless you want to ask a question. Okay. All right. Thank you. And let's watch this video. Hannah and Murray.
My name is Murray Keok. Actually, it's Dr. Murray Keok. I have a doctorate in public administration and urban planning. I am 92 years old and presently, and I'm living in a senior citizen residence in Brookline. I was an early progressive, that's, to the left wing. And I love Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie and all the folk songs. And when I got married, my kids, we were playing those records all the time. So there was a time I was on a chorus. My sister had a group and I was in a chorus too. So, music was in the background, something. It's not something that I never learned to play an instrument. And, but that was my beginning with music. When I went to graduate school, everybody wanted to be a psychologist, a psychiatrist, working with the mind, and that was not what I was interested in. So I wrote a song, and I wrote 2 or 3 other songs where I composed the music and the lyrics. But then what happened is, I used to play bridge in a building in New York City. A lot of musicians here. And it was one of the signs on the door was guitar. So I knocked on the door. Guy pokes his head out. I said, "Can you sing?" He says, "Yes." "Okay, well, suppose I give you some lyrics. Could you add the music and sing and record it?" He says, "Yes." He says, "Well, what will you charge me?" He says, "Well, I charge $75 an hour for music lessons. So I charge you $75. So I said, "Good, great." That's 8 years ago. We've become the best of friends, and we've done about 100 songs together. Most of the music, the lyrics that I write, are related to what's going on in the world, like climate change. So I wrote a climate change song, and the guy that I work with, a friend of mine, John, turned it into a video. So I have about 3 or 4 videos. Pandemic, women's rights, all issues. Those are most of the songs that I write. I have written songs about my wife, and some love songs. Congresswoman, there'll be no peace to them. It's a wonder that I've lived this long and seen so many places on the earth. The thing is, I start writing, I'm always thinking it's a poem, it's a song, but really it could be just poems. What I'll do is, I have an idea, and I'll write a one stanza, and I'll put how many beats to each line. So when I go to the next line, I'll keep it the same beats. And I usually have 4 stanzas and a chorus. And sometimes I'll add more, maybe a little less. I just wrote a musical where a planet from outer space sends a rocket ship into outer space, and they land in the United States. And 4 people get off, and they gather information and songs and things that are going on in the United States. And they go back to their planet, and they present what they learned to the elders in the planet. The elders, we thought that we would learn something, make our life better. Our life is better than they are in the United States. So what they do then is they write some songs, and they send the group back to the United States to teach America how to be better. I've been active all my life. I've been on picket lines, and I've done a lot of, number of things. Well, the cops went on strike in New York City. And I wrote that was one of the songs I wrote, the whole song. Who's going to watch the picket line when the cops go out on strike? There are too many people just sitting on the sidelines. They don't like what's going on, but that's all they do. And somehow or other, I'm always talking about doing something. And most of the time when I was younger, and even as an older man, I more recently made my own picket signs, and I went on. I was 89 years old when I was walking on the march with holding my sign that I made myself. Life has been full of many, many things for me, and music is only one part of it. So I may be 92, but I'm not done.
The trees are about to burst, waiting for rain to quench their thirst. It's not that spring is near, it's already here.
All right. Wasn't that awesome? So you can see each young person has their own style and way of making the video. And this is Hannah's second video now, and she's stepped up her animation game each time. So my first question is, how did you come up with the concept for this the animation for this one?
Well, like as I said in my intro, the images sort of just came to my head. Like I imagined aliens, but I hadn't come up with their design. But I didn't want to draw a stereotypical alien, like green or gray with the large eyes. So I sort of thought about creating a design that sort of resembled a human, because they came to Earth, and I suppose they have to blend in. And so I sort of had to think about that. And then I don't know, the rest I just kind of I had those scenes in my head, so I drew them out.
It's great. It's nice that I love to see that the inspiration that you drew from that. Did anybody have any questions? You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
I don't have question as much. I have praise instead. I really like how you combined a whole bunch of different styles. You did videos, and then there's a portion of black and white, and then obviously the animation, which was incredible. This is really cool and captivating.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Questions or comments for either Hannah or Murray?
I have a quick question. I'm wondering, Hannah, if the color scheme was on purpose. It seemed like there was it was pretty consistent throughout, and I'm wondering if that was intentional. I liked it.
Yeah, so when I started coloring the first little animation that I did, the one about how Murray sort of started his music, I was starting to put in my own colors, but then I was like, oh wow, this kind of looks awful right now. So then I was like, I've been working with like a lot of color palettes lately, so I thought maybe I'd like, try and get like a color palette and then stick to it.
That's great. Great idea.
Can
Anybody
I ask-
else?
I have a question. I want to confirm, was at one point you showed the lyrics to, I think, a song. Was that one of Murray's? It was about the mass and cast stuff? Was
Yeah,
Murray,
he sent it to me.
those were Murray's words. That was fabulous. I really enjoyed seeing your writing, Murray. And Hannah, you did a nice job the way you slowly went over that so that I could actually read it. That was great. Thank you.
Murray, do you have any comments or questions? Hopefully I hope you're not just on the phone. I hope you were able to see it.
No, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah. I thought she did a marvelous job. I mean, none of the pictures took you away from what was going on. Whatever it was, they were supplementing. They were part of the same story. And I thought she did a very good job. I would just do one thing that maybe I didn't mention it. You could, all my songs are on SoundCloud. And anybody wants to hear any of my songs, just type in my name and you can hear 50 songs that I wrote. Thank you.
That's great. And that bit of music we heard over the credits, that was Murray's song, right? That you took
Yeah,
down.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So she incorporated a lot of little elements that Murray was able to provide her with. So that was great. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I think we'll move on to the second video. But excellent job. You guys were a fantastic team. And I love the muse of the muse of the muse sort of thing going on there. So thank you both. All right.
And I'm going to leave now. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Murray. And Vrinda, it does look like George was able to join. So we'll be doing yours later on. But first, next up, we have.
I'm here.
Hi, George. Glad you were able to join. We didn't think you'd be able to make it.
The choir I sing with, 40 people got COVID last weekend.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that is scary.
250. Yeah, I know. That's why I didn't go with them.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So they canceled the rehearsal, of course.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're able to join us. I also wanted to mention, thank you, Leslie, for activating or encouraging me to activate it, but I did enable the live transcription. So if anybody wants to, they should be able to show subtitles, and it will do a live transcription if anybody wants that. All right. So we're going to move on next to Lacie and Leslie. So Lacie, I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself and your video.
Okay, hi, my name is Lacie. I'm a sophomore. The senior that I had was Leslie. And throughout this project, I learned how to use WeVideo and edit videos.
Great, thank you. And that's the most I've seen of Lacie this whole 3 months. Look at, and you're like all lit up perfectly and everything. Thank you. And Leslie, would you like to say anything before we get started?
First of all, thank you for putting on the captioning. And I guess I feel both excited and nervous. So, and that's the most I've seen of Lacie in a long time. Good to see you again. So we'll go forward.
All right. Well, without any further ado, then let's get started.
My name is Leslie Friedman, and I have lived in Brookline for 40 years. but I'm originally from Washington, D.C., and I love to travel. The trip was to 4 countries in Southern Africa, and there's a variety of reasons why I decided to go. The trip was both starting and ending in South Africa. The other countries were Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Namibia. My thoughts in going were what I had heard, what I had learned, what I had seen politically. Some of the South Africans that I knew were Jewish people whose family had escaped the Holocaust and looked for a place to live. And South Africa was one of the countries that some of those escaping Jews were able to go to. I felt like I had seen such beautiful natural treasures, at least one in every country. And I thought to myself, there are so many different sides to these African countries, just like there are so many different sides to countries all over the world, that we shouldn't be focusing on their negatives. Because on the one hand, yes, there is poverty, there's a lot of poverty. But on the other hand, there's also a lot of natural beauty. So when I left and when I got back home to Brookline, all I could think about was the amazing contrasts. The people that I met were very, very nice. And I went with a group of at least 20 people. The people who live in different places in Southern Africa were very, very nice. But also, that was a time when I saw the poverty. I went to an open air market in Cape Town, South Africa, and bought 2 beaded bracelets from a woman. I complimented her on the way that she had designed, and I made the bracelets. When I bought both of them, she was so happy that I had bought them. She said this would be her dinner for the night. And that's also when I was struck by the beauty of the bracelets and struck by the poverty that this woman had to be in an open air market all day for long days in order to get money to buy dinner for herself. There was something that I saw someone else do on the trip that really changed me. And I'm sorry that I've lost track of them. A lovely, lovely couple. And he would always hold a lot of $1 bills. He was giving people from the country $1 bills. And everywhere we went, he would do it at the market. He would give extra $1 bills to the people who served us in the restaurants. And I remembered that when I got home. And ever since then, I've kept a number of $1 bills in my wallet, and I give them out to homeless people.
How did this impact you in your life?
I was able to see a lot of both sides of African countries. Now, I realized that I saw it from a tourist viewpoint, and from a tourist viewpoint that was of someone who was staying in very, very nice hotels. And I didn't grow up going to beautiful, fancy hotels. But I was still able to see different sides of these African countries, and I feel that it taught me a lot, that it made me think a lot, and I can share those experiences with friends of mine and realize that there are many, many different sides of Africa.
All right. Another great video. Do you want to say anything, Lacie? How was your excitement and your nervousness pan out?
Well, I wish I'd looked better on the video. But, Lacie, I love the way that you interlaced both pictures that I had taken and pictures that you found. I also wish that I had spoken a little quicker. I'm a slow speaker, but something actually happened this past weekend, which is relevant to my story. I'm involved with the New Rep Theater as a volunteer, and the New Rep finally opened after being closed throughout COVID. And we're really focusing on unheard voices. And one of the performers who did a presentation was a young woman from Zimbabwe. And she basically talked about who she is as a person and the country that she comes from, as opposed to what is told about Black people from different countries in Africa and how the media sets up stereotypes. And what she said was very, very profound to me because of my trip to Southern Africa and particularly Zimbabwe. And I spoke with her afterwards and talked about the beauty within the countries there. And it made me think of this upcoming video and everything that I've learned. So Lacie, thank you for putting it together for me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's funny to, I think probably for, everyone who wasn't in the group, that they haven't seen this. And of course, I mean, Lacie knows which pictures are hers or not, but I would guess that none of you have any idea what pictures were really from her trip or what that weren't. And so I think, Lacie, do you want to talk a little bit about how you were able to find pictures that sort of complemented and where there were holes in what Lacie gave you and like what you had to like look for?
Yeah, sure. I had to look for a lot of pictures because the ones that Lacie had, it was mostly like animals, which was good. And she had like, whenever she talked about how like beautiful Africa was, she always had like good pictures or like pictures. She had this one picture of like the sunset, which was really nice. So we just used that one. But the part where she talks about like the money and like the market, I had to like find pictures of like the women that she was talking about, or like what I thought that they looked like, or like what I thought that Africa looked like. It was fun. It took a lot of time though, because I had to find a lot of pictures.
Yeah, I think it's like, Lacie, like when you're on vacation or whatever, you're not like, oh, let me take a picture of like, the poverty and the this and the that. But that's such a, even though it probably impacts you just as much, if not more. Sorry, my dog just going crazy. Oops. But yeah, so I think that's like something interesting that comes up with some of the memories.
It was fascinating for me because I gave Lacie about 50 pictures. And at least half of them she researched and found. And they fit in. So to me, seeing it was a real learning experience.
Yeah, great. Any other questions for either Leslie or for Lacie?
I don't have a question, but you know what was really cool was when you showed the market, the picture of the market from up here, there was audio to go with it. That was awesome because it gave you a real feel for what a market like that would sound like. I really liked that you added that part. I don't know how you did that, but it was pretty cool. So.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Great. And also, I just want to mention too that this was Lacie's first video. Unlike Hannah, who's done this before, this was her first time learning how to use these tools and manipulating photos and WeVideo. And she also did struggle with some computer issues and things like that through the way. So I just want to really appreciate her for striving through and getting it done. All right, good job. All right, thank you, Lacie. Thank you, Leslie. All right, so next up, we have Angel and Sue. And I'm gonna ask Angel to unmute and turn on your camera and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Angel. I'm in 11th grade, and I'm really excited to be doing this today.
Great. Sue, do you want to say anything before we watch the video?
No, just hi. It's wonderful to be here with everybody. I'm just amazed at the talent you young people bring. Angel, Lacie, Hannah, and everyone. It is so, I'm so grateful. You are doing things that we never even thought about when we were in high school. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. All right. All right, let's get started. Let me share my screen. Good. And is everyone seeing the videos okay? Does it, like, the quality look okay and sound okay? Okay, good.
But this is what it was like. We played outside in the cold, warm, and I had a lot of boys in my neighborhood, and I loved playing boy games. So we played outside in the winter, we played outside in the summer. It was a lot of much more outdoor stuff, and we played baseball, football, cowboys and Indians. I'm ashamed to say that's very wrong today, but years ago, we played cowboys and Indians, and I was always the Indian because guess what? The Indian always died. It was very interesting. We had one phone in the house, one phone. And it was a funny thing. In those days, there was what they called a telephone stand. And it was a piece of furniture and it was a little stand and your telephone sat on it, one phone. It was very lonely for me in that particular little town. But the other thing was it was very safe, much safer than today. Oh, I loved nursing school, but it was hard, very hard. We worked 38 hours, no, 32 hours a week on the floor. We were actually used as nurses for 32 hours a week, and we had classes for 8 hours a week, and then we had to study. But they don't do that anymore. That was the old-fashioned way. You can work in a hospital, you can work in a nursing home, you can work in assisted living, you can work in corporations. A lot of companies have a nurse. grandchildren. I'm very lucky. I had 2 children. I have a daughter who's 51, and I have a son who's 49. Here's my grandson. He's 6 feet tall. Nobody in my family is 6 feet tall, but he is. And here he is with his, there he is. That's Sammy. And he's at the new school. Yeah, that's Sammy. And then my granddaughter is only in 7th grade, and she's at the Ridley School, Florida Ridley School.
Yeah, my brothers go there.
That's Alice. I'm fluid. I was fluid, and my husband and I got divorced. It was a horrible marriage. He was unhappy, I was unhappy, and we got divorced. And that's when I came out, and that's when I realized I really loved women. I've always liked women. I've always had women as friends, women in my company, a company, you know, doing things with women. I love women. I came out very old at 64. Most people come out at most in their 40s, maybe. I have a wonderful circle of lesbian friends, and women as friends, I just find better than men. Now, a lot of women have men who are their friends, you know, they're friends, platonic friends. I was never that way. I just have women. And my dearest friends are all women, and I love my women friends, and they're lesbians. But all my straight friends, though, stuck with me when I came out and said, you know, I'm a lesbian now. They said, who cares? I was very lucky. So I socialize with lesbians, and it's wonderful. They're terrific, absolutely terrific. I love them. I love myself. So that's what I did. Crazy me at 64.
All right. Thank you. Great. Angel, do you want to talk a little bit about how it was for you to deal, like Sue gave you a whole life of information, and you had to figure out how to put it into a shorter format story. Do you want to talk about that process a little bit?
Yeah, sorry. At first it was really hard because we had to cut it down to like 8 minutes, and I had no idea how to do that because the video was over an hour long originally. So I really needed help with that. But overall, I loved doing it, and she made a lot of jokes, which I liked. And like I liked that the video wasn't bland or anything, and it was really easy to work with.
Great, thank you. Sue, do you have any reaction, or what was it? I mean, you shared some very personal information, and I know Angel and I talked about how, you know, we were like, is this okay to talk about? So thank you for being so honest and personal.
Well, let me say this, when you're 80, nothing is personal, my dear, nothing. You learn. You make your mistakes in front of everybody, and you say, thank you for a learning lesson. And I say, thank you to Angel. Angel had nothing to work with. I mean, you see it. I'm a little bit too egocentric. I love talking about me at 80. I felt I had sort of an interesting life, and I shared it with Angel, and she took and found fabulous pictures. Because one thing, I don't know about you all, I didn't have any pictures. I wasn't going on a beautiful trip somewhere. And I just, and Angel found pictures. Thank you, Angel, for taking a whole life and making it very fascinating and picking up my humor. Thank you, thank you. It was a joy to have someone love my life. Thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Great, any questions or comments? I think everyone is just floored by the amazing story.
I think this was Angel's first
Yes, this was
Oh,
Angel's
yeah,
first
right?
video as
Yeah.
well. And I know one thing too, I know she really struggled 11th grade, apparent like now 11th grade is like the new 12th grade. Like it's just like wherever they just get killed with work. And I know she was very overloaded at school. And she also did have some technical just connectivity issues at times as well. So I just really want to thank her for persisting.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. No one's ever made my life a story, Angel. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions or comments? And we move on.
And I just wanted to say to all the ones that have gone so far, great job. I tell Sarah and Tom and Lynn that I love the storytelling and I love how you help them put this all together. But I'll just I just couldn't help but laugh and just giggle inside when Sue talked about there's no need to be have any hangups at 80. I just love that. I can't wait till I get to the point in my life where I just have no care in the world about what comes up and comes out, because it's just so freeing and I love that. So thank you guys for doing a great job.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. Wonderful.
Thank you, Tony. That's great. Did you want to say something, George? I just saw you unmuted yourself.
Oh, yeah. Quickly, a wonderful story. I sing with the Boston Gay Men's Choir. I'm the only straight guy in the whole thing. There's 250, rest of them are the other team. And I saw lots of people like you coming out at 60, 70, one of my best friends, 75, married, kids and all of that. And I don't know. He said he always had a infatuation with men, but I hear this a lot. They have grandchildren and so on. So you're not alone. Could we do me next? Because I need to leave. I'm going to Boston Conservatory this evening.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
Sure. Hopefully Hunter and Isabella, you don't mind, do you? All right, let's move on.
And thank you, Vrinda. Vrinda, is it? I'm sorry.
Vrinda, yeah.
Great job. I saw the thing here. You did a wonderful job. I had no pictures either, so I made her life difficult. Great job, though.
Okay, let's take it away. So thanks one more time to Sue and to Angel. Appreciate your work and your efforts and your energy into making the story happen. All right, let's go to George and Vrinda.
So where would you like to start off your story?
Okay, so beginning with the life story is we'll start with the ending of my first degree in college from a place called Rider University. So I graduated in 1968 with a degree in political science, and the option that I found was called intelligence. I went down to a recruiter. He was in a suit, business suit, and I said, "You're in the Army?" And he was. So he signed me up for what they call counterintelligence. So it was a 3-year commitment. So basically out of 3 years, I had a year and a half of like military school. And then I went to what I call spy school. That was like 6 or 8 months. And then I said, well, how do I avoid going to Vietnam? And I said, oh, you apply to language school. So I applied for German language school, was accepted. And it was really quite a privilege. I should have made better use of that maybe. But so that was another 6 or 8 months of, pretty much 5 people in a class every day, So after that, of course, they actually sent me to Germany. And there I had about another year and a half commitment that I worked. And on completion of the military service, prior to that, I'm sorry, I met my future wife. She was a German national. So she was hitchhiking to Paris on a Friday. And, being the gentleman I am, of course, I picked her up. And she had a girlfriend with her. And I went back and I had an apartment. We didn't live in barracks and things like that. So I grabbed my roommate and said, I got 2 girls that are going to Paris for the weekend. Sunday, I'm 22, she's 19. We thought we were in love. So she stayed with me. And then when I finished the military, I had this crazy idea that I'd go to India because that's where all the Europeans went at the time. And I would study, I forgot which university, and get a doctorate. So I had this idea, I'm going to get this doctorate, and we hitchhiked down to Italy, and then we took the boat over to Greece. From there, we took a plane and we went to Lebanon. We were going to spend up to a year to travel, just for the sense of travel. So we take off, and we spent 6.5 exciting months in Lebanon, mainly Syria and Iraq, and Turkey. And another thing that's really important for young people to do is to make these kinds of trips, to have these kinds of adventures. There were 3 Germans, myself, to include this girl I was with, and we were detained by the secret police in Syria. We weren't used to tourists, but here I was, a counterintelligence agent, so they stopped us at the border. They brought us all back to this place, looked like, Gestapo headquarters, guys with machine guns, everything. And as it turns out, the guy who began interrogating us, I remembered that he was posed as a shopkeeper. And so he knew a lot of things about us. That's what you do in intelligence. What they had found was on the one German guy, a note that looked like Italian money, but it clearly said it was an advertisement for a movie. And that was their bring us back because we were passing bad money in Syria or something like that. So at one point, got rather heated. Anyway, they put the German guy in jail for the night. Oh, and we were under house arrest.
Oh my gosh.
So there were guys downstairs, soldier types, and they were there with machine guns. And, so what do you do when you're young? You do some more silly things. We get drunk. We're drinking hot dog with these guys. So now I think we're friends. And the guy almost shoots me with his machine gun, But it was quite exhausting, this kind of trip. So we finally were in Baghdad. We said, we're going to call it quits here. We went back to Germany. I started working for the military at an educational place, center. And then applied to Suffolk University and took some preliminary courses at Bunker Hill, and in 4 years got the doctorate at BU, and then I made a mistake. I didn't go into education. I worked at a company called Data General, and so after 4 or 5 years, that was enough of that. And I said I'll never work for another institution again. So it had been 2 years since I'd been working. So a friend of mine came along with the opportunity of alpaca sweaters in importing them from Bolivia. I said, okay, let's try this. It sounds like fun. So I drove around New England. I went to the major cities and found the best stores in there because it's quite expensive, these sweaters. We did about 90, 100,000 the first year.
Wow.
No background. Over time, I was able to get into the best stores. Nordstrom was my biggest store, Paul Stewart. So I did that until 59. That was it. And so I've been retired, as I said, for 15 years. And I think I've had a pretty successful retirement.
All right. Oh, man. What a story. I mean, who has a life like that? It just sounds like... I would think it would be made up if someone just told me all of that, like somebody been through all of that in their life. That's amazing, George. And Vrinda did she got 0 pictures from George, and every single one, she was able to find something so perfect, not just for the story, but the mood and the era was perfect. Do you want to talk about that for a second, Vrinda?
Yeah, sure. I guess the main thing I did to get it, I wanted it all to be of a similar aesthetic. And so I literally just looked up a scene in the 60s or 70s or literally just any time period after it, so I could get photos possibly from that era. And so I think it worked out pretty well, but it was definitely a lot of hunting and scrolling and trying different keywords in Google. So yeah.
Did you find, was there any, was it just generally Google, or did you find, was there a certain site that you found that tend to have a lot of pictures that match that era?
No, it was just Google, honestly. Yeah, I think, worked out pretty well. The photos at the end actually are, I emailed George and had him send photos of the actual sweaters that he sold. And so those I did get from him, but otherwise I found them on Google.
Great job. Any questions? Ivani?
I just wanted to say that because of Vinda's choices, I thought it was kind of like a movie, and I think we should say that Michael Caine would play George in the movie of his life.
I'll second that. I know it was quite a terrific story. George, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I have to leave in a minute. There's a whole lot more, trekking in the Golden Triangle. I almost died in the Mekong River. The girl changed places with me and died. I was under arrest in Peru, going to jail. Let's see, a whole bunch of stuff like that. My life was never linear, so you can have a haphazard life and be successful.
Great lesson to live by.
You don't have to set goals in life.
Well, you really should sit down and really write out your life story if you haven't, because it could be a movie. Maybe when Vrinda gets out of college, she'll actually make a feature movie about your life.
Yeah, people have always told me it, because it's very different from most people's lives, I must say. It still is, I must say it.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm off to the Boston Conservatory, but thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and thank you again.
Can I just say,
Terrific job.
I really feel like you ended it abruptly, but it was the right way to end it, right? Like, I don't know how else you could have ended. Like, it's like, and now I'm retired, and I don't know how else you could have done. I thought it was a good way to end it, is what I'm saying. It matched the whole thing. Yeah, Tony gets it. Yeah.
I know, it's just like story. And it's like,
Yeah,
what?
and
You're selling alpaca
sweaters.
sweaters? Like, what?
I think that was a good choice, is what I'm saying, Vrinda. I think that really worked.
Thank you so much.
Totally agree. It was Vrinda.
Although you should have put credits so you could have your name on there.
Yes, I should have.
You should make me a new version with just put a credits on it, so when we upload it. All right, awesome job. And also, this is Vrinda's second time, and just, she's also not a STEP student. She's actually an intern, a youth arts to work intern with BIG, and she's been doing this for the second semester, in which I'm proud to announce that Hannah is going to be joining as an arts to work summer youth intern this summer. So I'm really excited about having Hannah join our team and laddering up in terms of her experience. So, all right. Well, let's move on to the next one then. We'll move on to Hunter's story with Frank. And I think, as far as I know, Frank never did jump on, unfortunately. Frank also had quite an interesting life, and Hunter had to do quite a lot of editing as well to kind of figure out the story. So, all right. Wait, hold on a second. So, Hunter, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Hunter. I'm a sophomore at BHS, and this is my first year doing this. I had the pleasure of interviewing Frank and learning about his early life. Well, not really his early life, but most to all of his life. And I took away that, the history of, Massachusetts.
All right, and so Frank's not here, obviously, so we'll just go right into the video.
How was your early life like? What actions led you to have to move to that house, or were you born in that house?
Family came over on the boat in the very early 1930s, maybe 1931. They, my uncles, aunts, mother, sisters, all came over from Sicily, which is
Italian. Okay.
Yes, the people that moved to the west end of Boston from Italy, and there were a lot of them. It was all of European Italy when they came to America. Most of them moved to the west end or the north end if they came to this state. And there were Italians, Greeks, Armenians, Irish, and it was just sort of a mix that came to the West End and created a society that worked for them. What they had in common was, quite frankly, that nobody had any money. Everybody was dirt poor, and certainly my family was dirt poor.
to give you an idea of the time, they still had, this is awful, but they had horse and wagons. I worked on one. I sold watermelons on a horse and wagon, and I'm sure that dates me. Also, the rents in the West End were between $15 and $25 a month. Not everybody had an automobile. And actually, when my uncle bought his first automobile in Boston, he paid $50 for it. It was not new, it was used, but it was $50. And I remember going into, it was a clandestine meeting with the owner of the car. We walked into a parking lot and he passed papers to us, and my uncle gave him $50, and we left with a very old Hudson. We moved to the West End, and I lived there until I was 19, actually. At 19, they drafted me into the Army. But while in the West End, I had a lot of friends because everybody had the same background. They were from East, as I mentioned, Eastern Europe. And we all met in a playground, and the playground was right beneath my window of where I was living. So I could look out the window and see all of my friends and figure out who was in the playground, who was not. And what we did mostly was play baseball. Picture of me when I first got, well, I was born here. But that's a picture of me as, I think I was about 7 or 8 during this picture. I'm not really certain of that. And no, I was not in the Army at 8. As somebody mentioned. This is sort of what I looked like up until maybe 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. That's me looking like a North End denizen, somebody from the North End, where I also live. That girl is the girl that I was engaged to when I was 19. I was disengaged at 20.
Why'd you get disengaged with her?
Well, I went into the Army at 20, and at 21, I got a letter from her saying she had found someone else. Which, by the way, is a cliche that happened to a lot of people, but it was pretty devastating for me. But more devastating is when I left the Army, went back to the West End and found out that they were tearing it down in the name of urban renewal. And that was very upsetting because it left me without a home, for one thing, and without my friends because they all had, their places were all torn down and they moved to different parts of the state. And I had no idea. I mean, I was 21, 22 at the time, but I wasn't aware of where they were exactly. And my building was still up, and I was actually there when they tore it down. And it was a very, very sad time. And so in a sense, it's the same as losing it's like being an orphan, because they're removing your origins. They're removing the place where you grew up, the place where you knew everyone, the place where your mom and dad was. And we had nowhere to go. And eventually, my mother found somewhere to go, of course. We didn't stay in the streets. And we moved to Malden, and from there to Everett, and there to East Boston. And we primarily lived in East Boston for the next 10 or 12 years. But I still visit, and what is left of the West End is the church, St. Joseph Church, and the Mass General Hospital is still there. Everything else was ripped down. So this is a picture, that is me at 16 there with my friends who have since passed away. This is a West End reunion. This is very current, by the way, as current as 2 years ago. And this is the gang, the people here who are in their late 70s or 80 were my friends when they were 13 and 14 and 15. And I still know them.
All right, great job. I mean, it's really striking to me, that video, that just thinking about, I think of gentrification as like a something that started in like the 90s, the 80s, you know, and it's like, oh, this has been happening for a long time, like over and over and over again. We keep doing the same, making the same kinds of mistakes and destroying parts of the city and kicking people out in the name of renewal and expansion. So really interesting part of that story for me, and I think for Hunter too. Hunter, do you want to talk about like what to like find? Because when he also found, he wanted to really use Boston pictures. You don't want to like talk about the West End of Boston and then just put random cities in there. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Hunter?
Yeah, so it was really hard to find those types of photos because there's not that many of them out there, and there's not that much like old photos because like photos back then were like really rare and really expensive. So trying to find photos like those was really hard.
Do we have anybody have any comments or questions for Hunter?
I have a comment. I thought it was a great balance of like moments when he was saying things that were pretty like sad and hard and emotional, like his friends all being gone and, you know, the demolition of that building. But then there were really funny moments. And I loved when you asked him about, you know, what happened to his girlfriend, and he called himself a cliche, you know, so it was like a good balance, which is so you, Hunter, right? Like of humor kind of peppered in there. So well done with the editing in that way.
Totally agree. Great job, Hunter, on that. I like that balance.
Yeah, it's funny because there was actually, we were talking about that moment with when he became disengaged or whatever, and I was like, do you know that that's a picture of Elvis? Like like a lot of young people don't know who Elvis is, and he's like, no, I know, I want it there. I think it's funny. And I was like, okay, as long as you understood, because I'm like, Elvis is going to mean something specific to people. So, but he totally knew and wanted to.
It was funny. It was, and it made you think of like Elvis, like crooning songs and like, oh, the disengagement. And I thought it was perfect. It was great, Hunter. I think I like that you added some of that in there. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Hunter, do you want to say anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay. Well, thank you. Again, this was also, like as he mentioned, this was his first video as well. And, I think Hunter has a very high technical aptitude, and he was able to really pick up on WeVideo very quickly and like doing the animation, zooming in and out. So I just want to praise him for picking up on that really quickly. So thank you. All right. Well, we've come to our final video of the evening. So I'm going to ask Isabella to unmute and show her video and introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Isabella, and I had the pleasure to work with Bonnie, and she was amazing. I got to learn about her life and career. What I learned is that you can do anything and try a lot of things in life until you find what you actually love.
Great. Thank you, Isabella.
You're welcome.
Bonnie, did you want to say anything before we get started?
I really enjoyed working with Isabella. I thought that she was a very kind and inviting presence, and she loved to ask me questions, and she seemed to be impacted by what I was saying, and I just really liked her, and I felt like she was around the block, and I might bump into her sometime, and I hope it happens. I really enjoyed working with her. And I also saw that it was a challenge to do a so-called memoir. This is a memoir-ish. I teach memoir in lifelong learning, and I read a lot of them, but reading doesn't mean I'm doing them. And the only thing I've done is make a photo album of my life when I was 70. I did that for posterity, and I did one for my mom when she passed away. So I kind of like doing the picture text match. I write little things. And so I had that in mind as I was talking a bit about my life. So I guess you'll see, and I hope it worked out. Have confidence.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, we'll get started.
My name is Bonnie Lass, and I live in Brookline and the JFK crossing section of the town. I've been here since 1976 when I came here to teach at Boston College. When I was growing up, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Wouldn't you know it, my parents wanted to go up in the world and move to the suburbs. So when I was about 10, we moved to Long Island. Basically, I hated the suburbs. And I always wanted to get back to Brooklyn. So off I went after high school, after being a very good student and loving to read and liking advanced placement English, hating geometry, all of that. Never a math student, but always an English student and history. So I went off to college. I went to Syracuse University, but then, you know, life happens. And what happened was the hippie revolution halfway through. And I sort of changed. I got a little bit more interested in what I was studying. And I became an English major and read a lot of English and American fiction. So what to do with that when you graduate? And I took a couple of courses over the summer after I graduated from college. And they placed me in an inner city school. And it was go, go, go. I did it. I loved it. And I was good at it. And after about 7 years, I was headhunted, and they said, I've heard about you, and we'd like you to come down and run our reading clinic. It's we do after school help for kids who have reading problems, and we'd like you to run it. So I did that, and I liked it so much that I said, you know what, I really want to run things, and I want to teach teachers how to use my technique in teaching reading. So I guess it's grad school. So my husband and I went out to the Midwest. I got to do research and I got to be a scholar. And that was the most and best schooling I ever got in my life. At the end of that time, though, we wanted to come back to New York. It was fun, but we wanted to get back to the big city, but there were no jobs. So I was lucky enough to get a job at Boston College. And my husband and I agreed that it wouldn't be so bad to live in Boston. So I began to teach teachers at Boston College. At BC, my talents were a little bit wasted. I went to talk to a room full of Boston teachers. You know, you have to do community outreach when you're a professor. So I did some of that, and the Boston teachers didn't like what I was talking about, which was Black English, you know, a different dialect, the needs of different kids who come from different cultures, and they just hated it. And I just said, you know, this is not my cup of tea. There were just so many men there who didn't work hard, and they didn't appreciate me because I worked hard and I made a lot of progress, but they didn't like me. And when 7 years of teaching there, I had a few friends, but not a lot. I had made some progress, but they didn't give me tenure. They don't give you a job for life. So a friend of mine who was a teacher also at Boston College said to me, so what are you going to do next? Well, by that time I had a child. My son was 3. I had to look for another job. And that's when I fell into another career. And that was as an editor in educational publishing. A friend found an ad in the paper. I applied for the job. I got it right away. And I started to work for a corporation. So there were corporate politics. I was doing completely different stuff. But as it turned out, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I loved working in publishing. That's what I wanted to do when I was young. I worked after, I think it's 14 years teaching. Now I put in 30 years in educational publishing. And the friends that I made there were the friends I'd made for life. I'm still friends with them after retirement. So what I did in educational publishing is I wrote stories for children who were beginning to read. And I did that in 2 different places, 20 years at Houghton Mifflin and a place called Educators Publishing Service. And I was there for 10 years. A lot of the men did not like the fact that I had a child and I was teaching. They came from very restricted backgrounds and their wives were home with 7 and 8 kids. I was teaching with one son. He was at the devotion school. I would have to run home and, make sure he was okay. And when he was just a baby, I had to run home and nurse him. And one time I brought him to a staff meeting and everybody's eyebrows went to the top of their head. They just were shocked. And it just was a very paternalistic and male atmosphere. Publishing was different because it was really run by women. At the very, very top, there were men, but my bosses there were almost all women. I enjoyed being, bossed around by women more, although my 2 favorite bosses in publishing were men because they were funny. So the challenges were between family and responsibilities at work and the politics of the workplace. So my aim was to make a difference, to be helpful, to manifest what I'd learned along the way, and to always be a vital presence in my family and in the world.
All right. That was an awesome video. That was like such an awesome like lifespan story. Like you've been through so many things, Bonnie, and I just loved how frank you were about everything. It was really great. And I think Isabella, I know like to me what I saw for you, the greatest challenge is she found these great videos, but they were very modern looking. It's very hard to find good images that consistently go with a certain era. So Isabella, do you want to talk about what you did to try to keep the aesthetic like a little more old fashioned or like a little older so it didn't look like it was yesterday?
Yeah, of course. So what I did was I was trying to like change the color into like black and white so it kind of looked like a little bit older and like turn like this Saturn or something. What is that called?
Yeah, the saturation down.
Yeah, so I can try to make it like older, not as modern. Some of the pics I couldn't actually do that because it's just so modern that you can't really do that. But some of the pics I actually got to do that, as you can probably see in some of them. So yeah.
Great. Bonnie, do you have any comments or reaction?
Well, I just think Isabella did an incredible job. I really didn't expect it to be that good. I enjoyed watching it. It taught me new things about myself, and she did a great job for a first timer. I think that this is something I will be very happy to show my family. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm really glad to do this.
Isabella, sorry, go ahead, Isabella. Sorry.
Oh, no, thank you to everyone in the comments that was saying.
Great. This is actually Isabella's second time making video.
Sure.
But yeah, her and Hannah were the only two, and Vrinda have done, so it's like half and half, second timers, first timers.
Sorry.
No. But yeah, I think one of the things that stood out too with Isabella's is that there's actually like a lot of really great stock media that's in WeVideo, and she really took advantage of that. And I think her first video, she also found a lot of great footage, and she's very good at like adding images of locations to kind of situate you in the space where the story takes place. And sometimes that's because sometimes it's very hard to find a very specific detail to highlight with images that you can find online. So I think she did a really great job at that.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments for Isabella or Bonnie?
I also just wanted to say that one video of the guy like looking frustrated when Bonnie was talking about, the guy when you brought your child into work, right? That was the part in the story. That was perfect timing, Bella. Good job.
Thank you.
And I would just say, I think, Isabella told Bonnie's story, and it was so important for us to hear Bonnie's story. I told Sarah privately, like, I actually got a little teary because I think strong women face challenges, and they were so much more so challenging when you were younger. And so I appreciate that you were willing to share that story, and Isabella did such a good job, I think, kind of setting the mood for that. So overall, it was really, it was nice for me to revisit that, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I'm glad you appreciated it.
Great. Any other questions or comments?
No, I have to comment, Bonnie, you did extraordinarily well balancing family at a time when there was no balance. It wasn't considered in the professions in corporation America. Congratulations. And Isabella, you picked that up and you gave her the space and the acknowledgement that she certainly deserves as what I would call a groundbreaker.
Thank you so much.
Great. Any other questions or comments? I just want to share something. I haven't done this before, but since we're talking about it, I just want you guys to see, Isabella, I hope you don't mind, like what the timeline looks like for some of these videos. So, when they record this video, and this time they record it in, everybody did Zoom, they get one giant, like 40-50 minute chunk of just the Zoom recording. And so this is 8 minutes. So this was the longest, I think this was the longest video today. And all of this on this row is see all those little, every time where you see like a black line, that's a cut there. So that's how much that video is cut up and moved around. And then all these other small little clips that you can see here are videos and the pictures. And then on top of it, they have to go into it to make it move or to desaturate the color to make it look a little bit more old-fashioned if it looked too modern. And then adding also graphics like the credits and adding music down here as well. So I just wanted to share that because I think sometimes, you don't, it's like what they say about like understanding how the sausage is made. This kind of like a little peek into the behind the butcher's curtain there. So they have to do a lot of work. It's definitely takes a lot of time and manipulation and research and changing and testing and doing new things. So I just want to appreciate everyone here, both all for the seniors for being willing to tell their stories and being vulnerable with not only telling your stories, but also, you don't know what you're going to get and who you're going to get linked up with in terms of like how they're going to honor your story. And hopefully you all felt your stories were honored tonight. I know that all of the young people cared about it and did their best. And so I just want to thank everybody. You all did a fantastic job.
I would like to thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
You've done
you.
a great job too, because you coordinated the whole darn thing. You and also, I have to say, Jamie is one of my favorite bosses of all time. She's not a good boss, but she's terrific. I really am helped every day with the things that I like to do by people at the senior center and in the town. We have a great town.
We do. Very fortunate. Thank you.
You did.
Yeah, I second Bonnie, and thank you, and Tony and Tom and everyone involved.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't do without Jamie and, well, formerly Lynn, Lynn, but in her former role, without their help. So thank you all very much. And without the partnership between the senior center and STEPS, this definitely would not be possible. All right, well, I guess this concludes the spring 2022 session. I thank you all again, and I hope you can enjoy your hopefully warm spring to summer evening.
I just have one question. Where's the video? When do I get it?
Yes, I will be working on uploading them, hopefully by early next week. I'll try to get them. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get them done this week, but I'm actually traveling right now, but hopefully I'll be able to get them done for next week, and then we'll share them, and then you can share them with your families and whomever you would like.
Love to.
And we'll be airing them on Big and things like that as well. So they'll be on the cable channel as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Night.
Delight.
Good night. Thank you.